Did you know a government once solved prison overcrowding by executing 1,200 inmates in a single day? On June 28, 1996, guards at Abu Salim prison in Libya received their orders directly from Gaddafi's security chief. End the hunger strike. Use any means necessary. The prison held 1,700 political prisoners crammed into cells built for half that number, but the government had found their solution. Guards began sealing cell blocks one by one, trapping inmates inside like caged animals. Then the shooting started. Machine guns fired through food slots and barred windows while prisoners desperately tried to break down their cell doors. For 6 hours, guards moved methodically from block to block, executing everyone inside. 1,200 men died that day, gunned down in their cells. Bulldozers immediately buried mass graves in the prison courtyard, while families were told their relatives died in prison clashes. For 15 years, the government kept this secret, until survivors finally spoke the truth about Libya's darkest day. Did you know the largest surrender in US military history led to one of the most horrific war crimes ever documented? On April 9, 1942, American Colonel Edward King surrendered 76,000 troops to Japanese forces at Bataan Peninsula. What happened next wasn't prisoner transport, it was deliberate extermination. The Japanese forced these men to march 65 miles without food, water, or medical care. Anyone who fell behind got bayoneted. Guards denied water to dying men and executed prisoners for entertainment. Desperate soldiers drank from dirty animal wallows and ate grass while their captors laughed. But the worst was yet to come. Guards forced prisoners to bury their own comrades alive, watching as exhausted men realized this wasn't about moving prisoners. This was about killing them slowly. For 6 days, Japanese commanders documented every atrocity as 10,000 Americans and Filipinos died on what became known as the Bataan Death March, pure human evil disguised as military procedure. Did you know American soldiers once murdered over 500 innocent civilians and only one person went to prison? On March 16, 1968, Lieutenant William Calley led Charlie Company into My Lai village in Vietnam. They expected to find enemy fighters hiding among the villagers. Instead, they found only old men, women, and children eating breakfast. For months, these soldiers had watched their friends die from hidden traps and sniper fire. Their orders were simple: treat every Vietnamese person as the enemy. Did you know the East German secret police perfected a way to destroy people without ever touching them? In 1976, writer Jürgen Fuchs returned to his apartment to find something deeply wrong. Nothing was missing, but everything had been moved slightly. Books rearranged. Furniture shifted inches. This was Operation Zersitzung, the Stasi's psychological warfare program. They didn't arrest dissidents anymore. They broke their minds instead. Fuchs's food was secretly laced with drugs that caused hallucinations and paranoia. His closest friends were recruited as informants, reporting his every word back to handlers. False rumors spread through his social circles, destroying his relationships one by one. Soon, he couldn't trust anyone. Reality itself became unreliable. The Stasi documented his mental breakdown in detailed files, watching as he attempted suicide multiple times. Over 10,000 East Germans endured this invisible torture. Most never recovered. Many didn't survive. The perfect crime leaves no fingerprints, only shattered minds. Did you know Stalin once murdered 7 million people using nothing but hunger? In 1932, Ukrainian farmers watched Soviet agents arrive with rifles to steal their grain harvest. Every last kernel was taken at gunpoint from villages that normally fed the entire Soviet Union. This wasn't about food shortages, it was calculated genocide. Stalin wanted to crush Ukrainian independence, so he weaponized starvation itself. Borders were sealed. Anyone caught hiding grain was shot. Escape was impossible. Families ate tree bark, then grass, then anything they could find. Children died first, their parents too weak to dig proper graves. The horror escalated to cannibalism as entire communities slowly starved. Meanwhile, Soviet trains carried Ukrainian grain to other countries for export. Mass graves filled with bodies while officials pretended nothing was happening. 7 million people died in an engineered famine called the Holodomor. The world stayed silent while an entire nation was murdered by hunger. One man's cruelty became history's most twisted weapon. Did you know an entire town was unknowingly poisoned by their own government for decades? In the 1950s, families flocked to Uranium City, Saskatchewan, chasing the promise of good jobs in Canada's atomic boomtown. They had no idea they were living on top of the world's largest uranium mining operation. Every day, radioactive dust filled the air they breathed while processing uranium for nuclear weapons. The government knew the deadly risks, but kept mining anyway. They used uranium tailings to build roads, house foundations, even children's playgrounds. For years, families lived normal lives until the cancers started appearing. Entire households developed rare tumors simultaneously. Birth defects became common. Doctors couldn't explain the mysterious illnesses spreading through town. Then residents discovered the horrifying truth: their government had knowingly exposed them to lethal radiation. By the time Uranium City was abandoned, it was too late. Today, 30,000 tons of radioactive waste remain buried under their former homes. The town that promised prosperity delivered only death. Did you know that NATO secretly trained terrorists to bomb their own citizens for decades? In 1969, Pino Rauti received his orders from handlers in Brussels: target Italian train stations, blame the communists. After World War II, 14 European democracies created secret armies called Gladio networks. Originally designed to fight Soviet invasion, they became something far more sinister: domestic terror squads that murdered their own people. The strategy was simple but horrifying: bomb civilians in public places, then frame left-wing groups, train stations, markets, schools. Nowhere was safe from their own governments. Hundreds died across Europe, innocent families torn apart by state-sponsored terrorism. The worst came on August 2nd, 1980. Bologna train station. 85 people killed in a single blast. Children, elderly, commuters heading home. NATO commanders orchestrated the cover-up while families buried their loved ones. For 40 years, Europe's democracies ran assassination squads against their own citizens, all to win elections and fight an invisible communist threat. The real monsters were hiding in plain sight. Did you know America's most horrific human experiments happened in a prison where doctors paid inmates to be tortured? In 1951, Dr. Albert Kligman walked into Holmesburg Prison with a simple promise. He offered prisoners money for harmless skin tests. What happened next turned the facility into America's largest human testing lab. 85% of inmates became experimental subjects for chemical warfare research. Doctors applied mustard gas, dioxin, and radioactive materials directly to prisoners' skin. They wanted to see how chemical weapons would affect human tissue. Inmates suffered severe burns, permanent scars, and mysterious illnesses while doctors took notes. The worst experiments involved injecting prisoners with hepatitis and malaria. That's when inmates realized they weren't participating in medical research. They were being tortured for profit. For 20 years, over 10,000 prisoners endured these experiments. The military and pharmaceutical companies made millions from their suffering, all disguised as legitimate science. Did you know one man created such terror that his name still haunts us 6 centuries later? In 1462, Vlad III ruled Wallachia with unimaginable cruelty. When Ottoman forces invaded his territory, he prepared a welcome they would never forget. Outside the city of Targoviste, he erected thousands of wooden stakes in perfectly arranged rows. His preferred method was impalement through the body, designed to keep victims alive for hours. The screams could be heard for miles as people died slowly on these wooden spears. But his masterpiece came when 20,000 Ottoman prisoners were captured. He impaled them all at once, creating a forest of dying humans that stretched across the battlefield. Vlad would dine among the victims, listening to their cries as entertainment. Even hardened Ottoman warriors fled in terror at the sight. His psychological warfare was so effective that entire armies would retreat rather than face him. This real-life monster inspired the vampire legends we know today. Pure human evil needs no supernatural explanation. Did you know 87 pioneers took a shortcut that led to the most horrific survival story in American history? In May 1846, the Donner Party left Springfield, Illinois, heading for California with dreams of a better life. They trusted Lansford Hastings's advice about a faster route through the Sierra Nevada mountains. What should have been a simple journey became a nightmare when early snow trapped them at Truckee Lake. Food ran out within weeks. First they ate their oxen, then leather from their shoes and wagon covers. As winter deepened, desperation took hold. The starving families faced an unthinkable choice. When people started dying, the survivors made a decision that haunts history. They began eating the dead. Parents cooked the flesh of their own children to feed the living ones. Civilized people became something else entirely, driven by pure survival instinct. For 4 months, they endured this living hell in the frozen mountains. Only 48 people walked out alive, forever changed by what they had done to survive.